Welcome to the deep dive. So, if you're joining us today, you probably saw the recent announcement that likely left you with either your jaw completely on the floor or maybe just a deep, quiet concern about the future of our energy grid.
Or honestly, maybe a little bit of both.
Yeah, exactly both. We are, of course, talking about Elon Musk's recent Terafab announcement in Austin, Texas. It is a massive joint venture. We've got Tesla, XAI, and SpaceX all teaming up. And our mission for you today is to unpack this. We really want to separate the immediate grounded reality of what this AI infrastructure means for Earth right now from the kind of wild yet surprisingly mathematically sound future of space-based power that they're proposing.
Right, because the scale here is, well, it's hard to overstate. But before we get to the space stuff, the immediate terrestrial reality is really about integration. That's why this matters today. It's not just a big building. They are putting logic, memory, and lithography, mask manufacturing, entirely under one roof.
Which is not how this usually works.
Not at all. Usually that supply chain is scattered all over the globe.
Right.
But by integrating it, their goal is to compress chip design cycles from, months down to mere days.
Mere days, wow.
Yeah, it fundamentally changes the speed of AI hardware evolution.
Okay, so to really understand why this Austin facility completely changes the game, we first have to wrap our heads around the sheer planetary scale of the numbers Musk is throwing around here.
The terawatt ambition.
Exactly. The stated goal is 1 terawatt of AI compute. And for you listening, let's just ground that for a second. The current global energy consumption for all AI compute, like every data center, every training cluster currently operating worldwide, sits at roughly 20 gigawatts per year.
Right.
So let's unpack this. To put it in perspective, if the combined output of every existing fab and data center on Earth today is a single drop in a bucket, Terafab is basically trying to fill that bucket 50 times over. It's a 50x jump.
Yet the current global output is literally about 2% of what they want to achieve with this single vision. And so the real takeaway here, the so what of these numbers, is that this isn't just about making more chips. It's a fundamental shift in how humanity approaches industrial scale.
Right.
You don't just scale up existing processes by 50 times. You have to invent entirely new paradigms for energy and infrastructure.
Well, and that brings us to the elephant in the room. A terawatt of power has to come from somewhere.
Yes, it does.
And our terrestrial energy grid simply cannot support that 50x jump, which naturally forces us to look exactly where Musk was pointing during the announcement, which is up.
Straight up, yeah.
Space-based solar power. That's the proposed solution. But the logistics in the source material are, they're staggering. They're talking about requiring approximately 10 million tons of payload delivered to orbit per year.
10 million tons, a massive number. But the underlying physics and economics of space-based solar actually explain why they're pushing for it.
Okay, break that down for us. Why go through the trouble?
Because space-based solar delivers at least 5 times more usable energy than an equivalent ground-based installation.
5 times just from being up there.
Exactly. Think about it. In high orbit, there's no atmosphere to scatter the light, there's no weather interference, and most importantly, there's no night cycle. The panels are bathed in raw, unfiltered sunlight 24/7.
Okay, sure, the efficiency is great. But here's where it gets really interesting, and I have to push back a bit. Musk joked during the announcement that they have to do this because nobody wants it in their backyard. The whole NIMBYism thing.
Right, the classic not in my backyard problem.
But it wasn't really a joke at all. Sending 10 million tons to orbit sounds like straight-up science fiction. How do we balance this massive off-world infrastructure requirement with what is actually happening on Earth right now?
That's the real tension here. Because before we get to millions of tons of orbital payloads, this facility, this Terafab, is being built right now in Austin.
Exactly, back on the ground. And the immediate impact of that Austin fab is going to be incredibly harsh. They're going to consume massive amounts of power, huge amounts of water for cooling, and generate extreme localized heat. Plus, they need industrial-scale grid interconnection that, frankly, Texas is already struggling with.
Yeah, the ERCOT grid in Texas operates on razor-thin margins during peak summer and winter as it is. But this is actually part of a broader, ongoing 3-year pattern in the energy sector.
Yeah.
AI infrastructure demand is completely outpacing grid planning timelines.
It's everywhere, right? Not just Texas.
Not just Texas at all.
Yeah.
We've seen data centers strain regional grids in Virginia, which is a massive data center hub, and across the Midwest.
Yeah, and we're looking at verified outside facts here.
Hmm.
The International Energy Agency, the IEA, put out data showing that global electricity consumption from data centers and AI could literally double by 2026 compared to 2022 levels.
Double in 4 years. It's unprecedented.
Mm-hmm.
And for any energy and operations professionals listening to us right now, this is the key point. This isn't abstract futurism. It is an immediate flashing red procurement and infrastructure planning signal.
Right, a blinking red light on the dashboard.
Exactly. Building a fab of this ambition adds immense pressure on electricity supplies, but also on the semiconductor supply chain itself. The terrestrial grid is physically running out of capacity.
Which brings us crashing right back to the economics of space compute. Because if the terrestrial grids in Texas, Virginia, and the Midwest are maxing out, suddenly these highly speculative space-based solutions become less of a sci-fi dream and more of a pressing economic necessity.
Necessity is exactly the right word. They are being forced off-planet by a lack of terrestrial runway.
But the timeline. This was the most aggressive claim from the whole announcement. Musk said space-based AI compute could become cost-competitive with terrestrial infrastructure within 2 to 3 years.
2 to 3 years.
I mean, in heavy infrastructure terms, 2 to 3 years is basically tomorrow. How is that timeline even remotely viable?
It sounds absurd until you look at the SpaceX advantage. The source material points this out clearly. SpaceX isn't starting from scratch here. They already have over 10,000 Starlink satellites actively operating in orbit.
Okay, so they have a fleet.
More than just a fleet. It's the largest operational research and development platform in space. And what they are mastering up there is thermal management.
Oh, because heat is a massive problem for AI chips.
The biggest problem. On Earth, we use chilled water and giant fans to cool data centers. In the vacuum of space, you can't do that. You have to reject heat through thermal radiation. It's an incredibly difficult material science problem. But SpaceX understands heat rejection in the vacuum of space at a scale no one else does.
Because they've been practicing on 10,000 Starlinks.
Exactly. And when you combine that deep operational knowledge with the rapidly dropping economics of launch...
You get that 2 to 3 year timeline?
Right. And if you're listening and you work in long-range capital planning, I want you to really think about this. If even a fraction of this vision becomes real, it reshapes every single assumption we have about where energy-intensive AI workloads eventually run.
It completely flips the board. You're no longer scouting for land next to a river in Virginia. You're looking at orbital deployment.
It shifts the conversation away from just the technologists and directly into the laps of the heavy capital planners. The depreciation schedules for terrestrial data centers might be completely disrupted.
Wow. Okay, so let's bring all this together for everyone listening. The immediate story today is this massive Terafab in Austin. They are radically compressing chip design cycles from months to days by integrating logic, memory, and masks. But that creates an energy demand curve that is just shooting straight up.
Straight vertical?
Yeah, proving that the AI infrastructure build-out is nowhere near its ceiling.
And that leaves us with a really provocative thought to mull over. If we are actively compressing chip design cycles from months down to a few days, but regional grid planning takes years or even decades,
Right.
will the ultimate ceiling on the AI revolution be dictated by the chips we can actually design? Or will it be dictated by our sheer physical inability to reject heat and generate electricity here on Earth before the space solutions are fully ready?
That is the multi-trillion-dollar question. Are we going to run out of Earth before we figure out how to harness space? It's going to be fascinating to watch this play out in Austin and in orbit. If you have questions about being a part of future segments or other partnership opportunities, reach out to a member of our team today. Links are located in the body of this session's description.